Why not you? Think about it for a second. Why shouldn't you be the one to achieve greatness, reach your goals, and live the life you've always dreamed of? Here's the truth. There's no real reason except the ones you let stop you. Let me show you why it's time to step into the life you deserve. Sometimes we look at successful people and think they have something we don't. A special talent, connections, or just plain luck. But what if that wasn't true? What if the only difference between them and you is a mindset? In this video, we're going to unpack the idea of why not you and how you can stop holding yourself back, one small decision at a time. By the end, you'll see that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is smaller than you think. 1. The stories we tell ourselves. Every single day we engage in conversations with ourselves, stories about who we are, what we can do, and where we belong in life. These stories are powerful, but unfortunately they're not always true. They're often rooted in fear, insecurity, or past experiences that we've let define us. Think about it. How often do you catch yourself saying things like, "I'm not smart enough, I don't have the resources, or someone like me could never accomplish that"? These thoughts may feel justified, even logical, but they are often nothing more than mental traps, excuses dressed up as reality. Why do we do this to ourselves? It's simple. Our minds are wired to protect us from discomfort. When we think about taking risks, stepping outside our comfort zones, or pursuing something ambitious, fear kicks in. And that fear disguises itself as facts about why we're not capable. You're too old, you don't have the connections, this isn't the right time, but here's the truth, those thoughts are rarely based on fact. They're just stories we've internalized over the years, often from other people's opinions, past failures, or even societal expectations. The thing about these stories is that they're self-fulfilling. If you constantly tell yourself, "I can't do it," then you won't even try. And when you don't try, you confirm your belief that you couldn't do it in the first place. It's a vicious cycle, and it's one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck. But here's the good news, you don't have to stay stuck. Take a moment to reflect. What's a story you've been telling yourself that's holding you back? Maybe it's that you're not educated enough to start a business. Maybe it's that you've made too many mistakes in the past to deserve a fresh start. Or maybe it's something as simple as believing you're not disciplined enough to follow through on your goals. Whatever it is, I challenge you to question it. Ask yourself, is this story actually true? Not does it feel true, but is it really true? For example, let's say you think, "I don't have the resources to succeed." Is that entirely accurate? Or is it just that you haven't been resourceful enough to find what you need? There's a big difference. Most of the time, the stories we tell ourselves are based on fear, not facts. Here's the thing, you are not your past. You are not your circumstances. You are not the opinions of others. You are the sum of your choices, and you have the power to change your story at any moment. But it starts with becoming aware of the lies you've been telling yourself. Now let's flip the script. Instead of saying, "I can't," start asking, "Why not me? Why not you? Why shouldn't you be the one to achieve greatness, live your dreams, and make an impact?" The people you admire, whether they're entrepreneurs, artists, leaders, or athletes, are not fundamentally different from you. They don't have some magical gene that makes them destined for success. The main difference is that they didn't let their inner story stop them. This isn't just about positive thinking, it's about rewiring your mindset. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I'm not good enough to replace it with, why not me?" it might feel strange at first, even uncomfortable. But over time, you'll notice something incredible. Your actions will start to align with your new beliefs. Think about it like planting seeds. When you plant seeds of doubt, you grow hesitation, fear, and inaction. But when you plant seeds of possibility by asking empowering questions like, "Why not me?" you grow courage, determination, and action. And those are the qualities that lead to success. Another important point to consider is the influence of comparison. We often compare ourselves to others and use that as evidence to reinforce our limiting beliefs. Look at them, they're so much smarter, more talented, or more confident than I'll ever be. But here's the thing, you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You see their success, but you don't see the struggles they went through to get there. The truth is, everyone has their own stories of doubt and fear. The difference is, successful people don't let those stories define them. They rewrite them. They choose to believe in their potential, even when it feels uncertain. And you can do the same. So what's the story you want to start telling yourself today? Imagine it's 5 years from now and you're living the life you've always dreamed of. What would you need to believe about yourself to make that a reality? Write it down. Repeat it to yourself every day. And most importantly, act on it. Remember, the stories we tell ourselves shape our reality. If you tell yourself you're not enough, you'll act like you're not enough. But if you tell yourself, I can do this, you'll start to find ways to make it happen. So let me leave you with this question. What's stopping you from saying, why not me, whatever it is? It's time to let it go. Rewrite your story and start living the life you were meant to live. 2, the power of decision. Success isn't reserved for the lucky few. It doesn't just happen to people who stumble upon the right opportunities. Success starts with one simple yet incredibly powerful thing, a decision. Here's something most people don't realize: failure isn't the opposite of success. Inaction is. The majority of people don't consciously decide to fail. They just never decide to succeed. They drift through life waiting for the right time or the perfect opportunity to come along. But let me ask you this, how often does the perfect time actually show up? Rarely, if ever. The problem with waiting is that it puts your life on hold. It leaves your dreams in the hands of chance, and let's be honest, chance isn't a great strategy. If you want to change your life, you have to decide to change it. And that decision is entirely within your control. But what does it mean to decide? It means cutting off all other options. The word decide comes from the Latin word decidere, which means to cut off when you truly decide to succeed. You're not just saying, I'd like to be successful someday. You're saying, I'm going to make this happen, no matter what. This kind of decision is powerful because it shifts your mindset from passive to active. You stop waiting for things to happen and you start making them happen. You stop asking for permission and you start taking charge. Now let's talk about what holds most people back from making this kind of decision. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. But here's the truth about fear: it's always going to be there. The question isn't whether you'll feel fear, it's whether you'll let it stop you. When you decide to succeed, you're not saying, I'm not afraid, you're saying, I'm going to move forward in spite of my fear, and that's what separates successful people from everyone else. They feel fear, but they don't let it control them. Think about a time in your life when you made a real decision, when you committed to something wholeheartedly. Maybe it was deciding to pursue a career, start a relationship, or improve your health. How did that decision change your actions? Chances are, it gave you focus and clarity. It pushed you to take steps you might not have taken otherwise. That's the power of decision. It's not about knowing all the answers or having everything figured out. It's about committing to the path and trusting that you'll figure things out along the way. And here's the beautiful part: when you decide to succeed, the universe tends to meet you halfway. Opportunities start to appear, not because they weren't there before, but because you're finally paying attention. You start to notice solutions instead of problems, possibilities instead of obstacles. So what's one decision you can make today to move closer to your goals? It doesn't have to be huge. It could be as simple as deciding to spend 30 minutes a day working on your passion project or committing to reading one book a month to improve your skills. The key is to start. Remember, success doesn't happen by accident. It starts with a decision to believe in yourself, take action, and keep moving forward no matter what. So why not make that decision today? After all, why not you? 3, the myth of perfection. One of the biggest myths that holds people back from achieving their goals is the illusion of perfection. You've heard it before, or maybe you've even said it yourself. I'll start when I'm ready. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? You want to prepare, plan, and make sure everything is perfect before you take that leap. But let me tell you something, the idea that you'll one day feel completely ready is a lie. Perfection is an unattainable goal, and waiting for it will keep you stuck indefinitely. Think about this. How many opportunities have you let slip by because you were waiting for the perfect time? How many dreams have you put on hold because you felt like you weren't quite ready yet? The truth is, the perfect moment doesn't exist. There will always be something that feels uncertain, incomplete, or messy. And that's okay, because success isn't about having it all figured out before you begin. Success is about starting in spite of the imperfections. Let's break it down. Why do we chase perfection? For many people, it's rooted in fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not living up to expectations. We tell ourselves, if I wait until everything is just right, I'll minimize the risk of failing or looking foolish. But here's the paradox: by waiting for perfection, you're not avoiding failure, you're guaranteeing it. Because the longer you wait, the less likely you are to ever take that first step. Take a moment and think back to a time when you delayed starting something because you felt unprepared. Maybe it was applying for a job, pursuing a creative passion, or starting a fitness journey. Now ask yourself, did waiting make it any easier? Did you eventually feel perfectly ready, or did you just lose valuable time? Here's the reality: most of the time, the hardest part of any journey is just starting. Once you take that first step, the process becomes easier. Why? Because action builds momentum. Even small, imperfect actions can lead to massive progress over time. On the flip side, waiting for the stars to align will leave you spinning your wheels indefinitely. Now, this isn't to say you shouldn't plan or prepare. Preparation is important, but there's a difference between being reasonably prepared and trying to predict and control every possible outcome. The latter is what leads to paralysis. It's what keeps people stuck in analysis mode, endlessly weighing their options but never actually taking action. Consider this analogy. Imagine you're trying to drive to a new destination. You wouldn't wait until every single traffic light along the route was green before you started, right? That would be absurd, because you know that as you move forward, the lights will change and you'll adjust accordingly. Life works the same way. You don't need to have the entire path mapped out before you begin. You just need to start moving. Another thing to remember is that perfectionism often comes from comparing ourselves to others. We see someone else's highlight reel, their polished achievements, their confident demeanor, their seemingly effortless success, and we think, I'm not there yet. I'm not good enough. But what we don't see is the behind the scenes. We don't see the countless mistakes, the false starts, and the learning curves they experienced along the way. Here's a secret: nobody starts at the top. Everyone who's ever accomplished anything great began as a beginner. They made mistakes, they faced setbacks, and they kept going. The difference between them and those who never succeed is that they didn't let the myth of perfection stop them. They started before they felt ready, and they learned as they went. Think about the first time you tried something new, maybe riding a bike, learning to cook, or speaking in public. Chances are you weren't great at it right away. You wobbled, stumbled, or burned the meal. But with practice, you improved. The same principle applies to every aspect of life. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to become great. So how do you break free from the perfection trap? It starts with shifting your mindset. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress. Focus on taking small, consistent steps toward your goal, even if they're imperfect. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, knowing that each mistake is a valuable learning opportunity. Another key is to set realistic expectations. Understand that growth is a process, not an event. You're not going to achieve your dream overnight. And that's okay. What matters is that you're moving in the right direction. Here's a practical exercise. Think about a goal or project you've been putting off because you feel unready. Write down the first small step you can take today, even if it's imperfect. Maybe it's sending an email, making a phone call, or spending 10 minutes brainstorming ideas. Then commit to taking that step within the next 24 hours. Remember, progress is more important than perfection. Every small action you take brings you closer to your goal, even if it's not perfect. And the more you act, the more confident you'll become. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build through action. So let me ask you this. What's one thing you've been delaying because you're waiting for the perfect time? And what would happen if you decided to start today, imperfections and all? The truth is, perfection isn't what leads to success. Action does. And the sooner you let go of the need to have everything figured out, the sooner you can start building the life you've always wanted. Or facing fear head on. Fear. It's a universal experience, something every person on this planet has felt at some point. Yet for something so common, fear holds an incredible amount of power over us. It stops us in our tracks, convinces us to play it safe, and keeps us from chasing our dreams. But here's the thing about fear, it's rarely as big as it seems. Most of the time, fear is nothing more than a shadow. It's your mind projecting worst-case scenarios, things that might never happen. But those projections feel real, don't they? They trigger that tightness in your chest, that racing heartbeat, that voice in your head that says, what if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I'm not good enough? Here's the truth, fear isn't something you can avoid. It's not going to disappear, no matter how much you wish it would. The only way to conquer fear is to face it head on. Think about it like this. Imagine you're walking through a dark room and in the corner you see a terrifying shadow. Your first instinct might be to turn around and run. But if you shine a light on it, you realize it's just a coat hanging on a chair. Fear works the same way. It grows in the dark, feeding on your imagination, but when you confront it, you often find it's not as scary as you thought. The good news is, facing fear doesn't have to be an all or nothing leap. You don't have to go from terrified to fearless overnight. You can start small. Take one step toward the thing that scares you. If you're afraid of public speaking, start by practicing in front of a mirror. If you're afraid of failure, take a small risk, something manageable but meaningful. Each step you take chips away at the power fear holds over you. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Fear isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path. In fact, it's often a sign that you're on the right path. The things that scare us most are usually the things that matter most. They're the opportunities for growth, for transformation, for achieving something extraordinary. So don't let fear be your compass. Instead, let it be your guide. Use it as a signal that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, and remember, that's where all the growth happens. What's one fear you've been avoiding? And what's one small step you can take today to face it? Whatever it is, know this: you're stronger than your fear. And the moment you decide to confront it, you take back control of your life. Learning from setbacks. Let's talk about failure. For most people, the very word makes them cringe. It's something we've been taught to fear and avoid at all costs. We see failure as a sign of weakness, as proof that we're not good enough, as the ultimate confirmation of defeat. But here's the truth: failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the process. Take a moment to let that sink in. Every single person you admire, whether they're a world-class athlete, a groundbreaking scientist, or a successful entrepreneur, has failed. Not once or twice, but repeatedly. Failure isn't a sign that you're off track. It's a sign that you're trying, that you're moving forward, that you're doing something that matters. But why do we fear failure so much? For many, it's because we tie our self-worth to our achievements. When we succeed, we feel valuable, confident, and capable. But when we fail, it can feel like we're not just failing at a task, we're failing as a person. That mindset is dangerous because it keeps you from taking risks, and without risk, there's no reward. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Failure is one of the best teachers you'll ever have. Think about it. When everything goes perfectly, what do you really learn? Not much. But when you stumble, when things don't go according to plan, when you hit a wall, that's when the real lessons come. Failure shines a light on what's not working. It gives you the feedback you need to improve, adapt, and grow. Here's an example. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike. The first time you fall, it's terrifying. You scrape your knee, maybe even shed a tear. But what happens next? You figure out what went wrong. Maybe you realize you weren't balancing properly, or you weren't pedaling fast enough. You get back on the bike a little wiser and you try again. Over time, those falls become fewer and farther between until one day you're riding with ease. Life works the same way. The setbacks you face aren't there to break you, they're there to teach you. But you have to be willing to learn. When you fail, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What can I learn from this?" Shift your perspective. See failure not as an ending, but as a stepping stone. Now, let's be clear, failure isn't fun. It's frustrating, it's humbling, and sometimes it's downright painful. But it's also necessary. If you're not failing, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. You're staying in your comfort zone, playing it safe, avoiding the challenges that lead to growth. Here's a powerful way to reframe failure. Think of it as feedback. When something doesn't work out, it's not a verdict on your worth or abilities. It's simply information. It's telling you this approach didn't work. Try something different. Use that feedback to adjust your strategy, refine your approach, and come back stronger. One of the most important things to remember about failure is that it's not final. The only way failure becomes permanent is if you let it. As long as you're willing to get back up, to keep going, to try again, you haven't truly failed. You've just encountered a temporary setback, a bump in the road, not the end of the journey. Think about some of the most famous success stories in history. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about it, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had given up after the first 100 attempts, or even the first 1,000. The world would be a very different place today. Or take the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of KFC. At the age of 65, he was rejected by over 1,000 restaurants before someone finally agreed to use his chicken recipe. Most people would have quit long before reaching that point, but he didn't. He believed in his vision, and he kept going. The takeaway here is simple. Failure is inevitable, but it's also invaluable. It's not something to fear, it's something to embrace. Because every failure brings you one step closer to success. So the next time you face a setback, don't let it define you. Instead, let it refine you. Take a step back, look at the situation objectively, and ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? How can I use this experience to grow? When you approach failure with curiosity and resilience, it loses its power to hold you back. Remember this, the most successful people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail and keep going. They see failure not as a stop sign, but as a detour, a chance to find a better path. Let me ask you, what's one failure that's been weighing on you? And how can you reframe it as a learning opportunity? Whatever it is, know this: you're not defined by your failures. You're defined by how you respond to them. 6, building resilience through action. Here's a little known truth about confidence: it doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who seemed incredibly confident, like they could take on the world? Chances are they didn't start out that way. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And the only way to build it is through action. Here's how it works. Every time you take a step toward your goals, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that you're capable. You're showing yourself that you can handle challenges, that you can learn new skills, that you can adapt and overcome. And with every little win, your confidence grows. Think of it like a snowball. When you first start rolling it, it's tiny. It takes effort to get it moving. But as it rolls, it picks up momentum, growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Action works the same way. The more you do, the more momentum you build, and the easier it becomes to keep going. But here's the catch: you have to start. And that's where most people get stuck. They wait for confidence to magically appear before they take action. They think, I'll do it when I feel ready, but readiness doesn't come from sitting on the sidelines. It comes from stepping into the arena. So how do you start building resilience through action? Begin small. You don't have to take a giant leap, you just need to take a single step. Maybe it's sending an email, making a phone call, or spending 10 minutes working on a project you've been procrastinating. Whatever it is, do it today. Each small step you take strengthens your belief in yourself. It's like planting seeds. At first you don't see much progress, but over time those seeds grow into something extraordinary. Another key to building resilience is to celebrate your wins, no matter how small they are. Did you complete a task you've been avoiding? Celebrate it. Did you take a risk even if it didn't pan out perfectly? Celebrate it. Recognizing your progress reinforces the idea that you're capable, and it motivates you to keep going. Resilience isn't something you're given, it's something you create one action at a time. So what's one small step you can take today to move closer to your goals? Whatever it is, do it. Because the path to confidence, success, and resilience starts with action. 7, the value of persistence. Let's talk about persistence. It's not a flashy word. It doesn't sound exciting, and it rarely grabs attention. But let me tell you, persistence is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It's the difference between someone who dreams about success and someone who achieves it. Most people give up far too soon. They start with enthusiasm, full of energy and big ideas, but then something happens, they hit a roadblock, face rejection, or don't see results as quickly as they hoped. That initial excitement fades and they stop trying. But here's the truth: success doesn't come from avoiding challenges, it comes from pushing through them. Persistence is about showing up day after day, even when it feels like you're not making progress. It's about trusting the process, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Let me share a story about the bamboo tree. When you plant a bamboo seed, you have to water it and care for it every day, but for years, nothing seems to happen. There's no sign of growth. Most people would give up, thinking their efforts are wasted. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, the bamboo shoots up, growing several feet in just a matter of weeks. What's been happening all those years? The bamboo was growing its roots, building a strong foundation to support its rapid growth. Your journey works the same way. The early stages might feel frustrating. You're putting in the effort, but you don't see the results yet. That doesn't mean your work is meaningless. It means you're building your foundation. Think about this. How many times have you stopped just short of a breakthrough? Maybe you were learning a new skill and it got difficult, so you quit. Or you started a project, but when it didn't take off right away, you walked away. Those moments are where persistence matters most, because right after the hardest part is often when the breakthrough happens. Persistence doesn't mean blindly repeating the same actions without learning. It means adjusting, refining, and improving while staying committed to the goal. If something isn't working, figure out why and change your approach. Persistence isn't about being stubborn, it's about being resilient. There's a common misconception that success comes easily to people who are talented or lucky. But if you look closely at anyone who has achieved something remarkable, you'll find a pattern. They refused to quit. They kept going when others stopped. They understood that the journey is long, and the rewards come to those who stay the course. Think about an athlete training for a marathon. They don't start running 26 miles on day one. They train for months, sometimes years, slowly building their endurance. Some days are hard, some days they want to quit. But they keep running step by step, mile by mile, because they know that persistence is the only way to cross the finish line. Now let's bring it back to you. What's something you've been working on that feels like it's not going anywhere? Maybe it's a personal goal, a career aspiration, or a project you've been pouring your heart into. Whatever it is, remind yourself that progress is happening, even if you can't see it yet. Success is like climbing a mountain. The climb is tough, and sometimes you can't even see the peak through the clouds, but every step you take brings you closer. And when you finally reach the top, all those difficult moments will feel worth it. Here's a practical way to stay persistent. Focus on the process, not just the outcome. If your goal is to get fit, don't obsess over the number on the scale. Instead, celebrate every workout you complete. If you're building a business, don't fixate solely on the revenue. Appreciate the skills you're learning and the connections you're making along the way. Persistence is about showing up even on the days when you don't feel like it. It's about doing the work when it's hard, when it's boring, and when no one is watching. Because those are the moments that separate the dreamers from the doers. Let me ask you this: what would happen if you decided right now that you won't give up? No matter how long it takes, no matter how many challenges you face, you'll keep going. How would your life look a year from now? 5 years? 10? 8. Stepping into your power. At the end of the day, the real question isn't why not you, it's why not you. Think about it. What makes someone else more deserving of success than you? What gives them the right to achieve their goals while you sit on the sidelines? The truth is, nothing. The only difference between those who succeed and those who don't is belief. Belief is where it all begins. If you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else? But here's the good news: belief isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, just like any other skill. And it starts with one simple question: why not me? You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to have all the answers or the perfect plan. What you need is the willingness to try, to fail, and to try again. You need the courage to step out of your comfort zone, even when it's scary. The truth is, no one is going to hand you the life you want. You have to go out and take it. That might sound harsh, but it's also incredibly empowering. Because once you realize that you're in control, everything changes. Stepping into your power doesn't mean you won't face challenges. You will. But those challenges aren't there to stop you. They're there to strengthen you, to help you grow into the person you need to be to achieve your goals. Here's a question for you: what's one step you can take today to move closer to your dreams? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's making a phone call, writing down your goals, or taking 10 minutes to learn something new. Whatever it is, do it. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer. Remember this, you have everything you need to succeed. Sure, you might need to learn new skills or overcome obstacles, but the core of what you need, the ability to decide, to act, and to persist, is already within you. So the next time you doubt yourself, the next time you wonder if you have what it takes, ask yourself, why not me? And then go out and prove to yourself that the answer is, there's no reason why not. The difference between the people who succeed and the people who don't isn't luck, talent, or circumstance. It's mindset. It's the decision to ask, why not me? And then act on that belief day after day. If you're ready to start living the life you deserve, the first step is simple: stop doubting yourself. The next chapter of your story is waiting to be written, and you're the only one who can write it.